The next set of effects we have here are a list of effects that I personally think are really cool, and don't necessarily have a place, if you will, have a good specific purpose. They're more of experiments and more awesome things that that are available for you to use to kind of mess around and have a good time. So this is going to be a little bit more relaxed, and we're just going to kind of go through them. It's going to be really cool. So the first one I want to show you is called Spin, and I realized I saw this effect recently, and I was like, whoa, why haven't I seen this being used? So what Spin does is it basically let me just show you. So based on different axes, we can change how many times it spins on top of itself, if you will. So let's do something real fast. So let's say we want this to spin, right? We want to spin on this axis and maybe even the z-axis as well. You can create some really, really funky stuff. And if you get creative here, let's see if I can try and come up with something that's a little bubbly. And if you want to do something interesting here, we're going to add let's do quickly a color effect. And then we'll do we'll make one side black, and we'll make another side here, and then how many? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll do 5. So we'll do this 5 times, and we activate this. When you do, you can create some very interesting, kind of almost abstract-y looks. And I think that this might have been the original intention, and there's a lot of cool things you can do with this. Now, this was really fast, but if you're the kind of person who likes to play around with different abstract type of things, this is a really fun tool that I bet you would find yourself messing around with a lot, and having a really cool, really fun time with working with, and probably coming up with some really cool effects and some abstract kind of shapes using this tool, this spin tool. And you can kind of go all the way past anything that you need to, and so there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with this, and it's a lot of fun to mess around with, and especially when you have when you add some color effects, and you can kind of do some really nifty things. This could be a lot of cool things that could come out of this. The next one is Rotoclone. Now what this does is it creates copies on as almost a delay. So when you actually have movements and stuff, so if we just do let's do an oscillation position. What? That's not right. What? That's not supposed to be how this works. Hold on a second. That's why. All right. Excuse the hiccup. When you place it on top, when it has a movement, and you place these rotoclones underneath it, you'll find you can do some really interesting things and change. It's kind of almost a delay, and it has, you can change positions and kind of how it interacts with itself. This one's a lot of fun to do if you have if you create like let's say this to maybe 360 or something, or you can do very interesting things with this roto clone, and it clones things based on an axis is basically how it goes. And like I said, a lot of these don't have specific uses, but there's a lot of interesting things that probably could come out of this. So say you wanted to do you had a single shape, and you wanted to clone it, and so when you did if you're making, say, an abstract show, you could clone things and have them rotate on each other and do some very interesting things to create those shapes, and it just kind of creates those clones on top of it. And you can do some fun stuff with this. So you can create those clones and hopefully have a lot of fun with them. So you can do something like that, and they would clone on top of each other and be in different positions. Next is Kaleidoscope, which is it's a symmetrical clone. And what that kind of does, if you had a color effect, it would make a little bit more sense. But when you do this, if you look up here, it will multiply and clone on the same. It's a very interesting cloning tool. and it will copy what's on top of it. And you can do delays, and it'll mess with, if you had a color effect, it will multiply, let's see, sorry, let me just get back to it. It'll multiply on top of itself, and kind of cause an interesting kind of layering effect if you were trying to, I don't know, say zoom it or something. When it actually scanned out, it would look very interesting. Again, a lot of these don't have specific homes, but they have a lot of interesting potential. So kaleidoscope is basically it's a symmetrical clone, and it's on top of the point positions, and it goes based off its point positions and copies those point positions on top of themselves, almost like a duplication, but in a weird way. Resolution is an interesting one. It's very, very simple. It just lowers almost like pixels on how it can draw. So you can have back to 1, and then all of a sudden you can lower it to be, shape. You can make it look like it's really weird and has a really low resolution. Fun for maybe some graphic shows if you want to add a cool effect, or whatever you come up with. That's up to you. You can create a resolution change, and that's a little bit of fun. It's a very simple effect, but lots of cool little things. The next effect I want to talk about is delete dark lines. Now, this is an interesting one because in Beyond, when you have color and you have black as a color, it doesn't think about it as blanking. It thinks about it as points. So say we had this section area here that's all black. No matter what, it's still going to call those as points. So if the whole plane is 300 points, that could be 50 points of black. Where if it was blanked, it would be, say 4 or 5 points. So what we use delete dark lines. So what delete dark lines does is, if you say the max brightness is 2%, and we make a key there, now when you activate this area that's black here is now going to become a blanked point, and it's going to, instead of being just valued as a bunch of points that are black, it's going to be blanked. So they're going to blanket the area instead. An interesting use for this is if you have a circle, say, and we have something like this where there's a lot of darkness in it, and we repeat it, I don't know, a bunch of times. There's a lot of darkness in it. If you use delete dark lines, all of a sudden there's not wasting any time in a dark area while still scanning it. It's going to jump from spot to spot and get the maximum brightness and on time in the frame as possible. This is kind of a fix-it tool that you can use if you're having issues with, it's scanning a lot because you want to do a thing, but there's a lot of black in it. You can use delete dark lines and then cut out the fat, if you will, and make it a little bit faster, a little bit higher frame rate, as well as a little bit brighter.